goodness. Are we live? We are live. Okay. I'm laughing as we're coming on here because Barbara and I and Ed's and my mom were in the green room and we were just having a good old conversation. We were just having a good old time talking before we came live on the call. So I guess we'll just let you guys in on our conversation now. That's why we have so much fun. Welcome to this episode of PEPTalk, Productive Environment Podcast. And today we're going to be talking about if you're feeling stuck with your paper, your actions, your to-do list, all of that stuff. We're going to talk about that. So deciding your next action, that's one of the things we talk about often is what is your next action? And we're going to talk about that in just a minute. So that's when, Barbara, you taught that a long time ago. We call that the next action factor. So what is your next action? That's only half the battle. If you've been around us, you may have heard us talk about that before. The second decision, so deciding what your next action is only half the battle. The second decision changes everything. So stay tuned and thank you for joining us. I am Andrea Anderson, CEO of Productive Environment Institute here in Carolina Beach, North Carolina, joined by...
I'm Barbara Hemphill, founder of Productive Environment Institute, and I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina.
And we are excited to talk to you to help you get unstuck. So if you guys, if you're new to us, maybe you don't know Barbara's famous quote. So I'll go ahead and tell you. It's clutter is postponed decisions. So we talk a lot about decisions. Clutter is postponed decisions. So if you're watching this video and you're looking around your space, and if you see paper clutter or other kinds of clutter, there's lots of different kinds of clutter. There's email clutter, there's mental clutter, there's book clutter.
On the phone today with someone saying that my biggest problem is books, and it's actually mine too. So
yeah. So if clutter is an issue, and there's different levels of clutter. There's hoarding levels of clutter, and there's little bit of clutter, and it really just depends on what level of clutter you can tolerate in your life. Sometimes, right, Barbara, like sometimes you can handle a few little things around, and sometimes it gets to the point where like, okay, I have to do something about this, but then you're just not sure where to start. So one of the things to reel it in for us to talk about today, we're going to talk about paper and tasks. Okay. So paper and tasks that are related to our, getting things done, taking the next action. In fact, that's the first decision is, what is the next action? What do I need to do? And then the second decision changes everything. And Barbara, before I go into what that is, do you want to talk about that? Like, why do people get stuck? We have people that make to-do list after to-do list after to-do list in various forms. They're doing it on paper, they're doing it on a Google Doc, they're doing it in a task management system. And then the problem is, and you can have the best task management system in the world, but then the problem is getting back and actually taking action and doing something. And then you get to the point where it's like you're looking at your task list and it's so big and you're like, oh, and you close your computer down and you go take a walk or get out of the house or get out of the office or whatever. So
go to social media.
Go to social media. Yeah. Just check out. Just like, nope, it's too many things to do. Just check out.
You mentioned several places where it is, but the one place you didn't mention is in your brain.
Yeah.
My brain is full of all of this.
Yeah. I did say mental clutter. So that's, yeah. I said it really fast, but yeah, mental clutter, emotional clutter, people clutter, interruptions, distractions, all of those things that keep us from taking the next action. So just to get grounded, Barbara, I'm going to share, you have taught for many years. And if you guys are listening, if you take nothing else away from this talk today, I'm going to show you the first, which means it's not the only. It's the initial, not the only, the initial decisions that you can make about any piece of information or anything really. But let's just talk about information. Any piece of information that comes into your life, we call it the first sort. That's one name for it. And another name for it is the file, act, toss system. So Barbara, you taught us a long time ago, and you continue to teach today, that when paper comes in, whether it's mail or something we print or whatever, and now email comes in, the information is coming to us from multiple directions. and you say, okay, before you get overwhelmed with trying to do something with everything, what do we do first? And these are the initial decisions. So do you want to walk through this, and then we'll talk about what's next?
Yeah, but first I want to say something I just thought about, which is kind of how this evolved. Is there's a very common adage. Sometimes people will meet me and they'll say, oh, I know, handle a piece of paper only once. Wrong. That is the reason people thought that was the answer, and that's actually what caused the problem. And it was out of the myth of handle a piece of paper only once came the file, act, toss, the next action. And there's all in that first sort, the mail, your email, whatever, there's only 3 choices. File it means, I don't know if I'll ever need it, but I don't have the guts to throw it away or hit delete. And act means the ball is in my court. I've often said, my daddy on the farm used to say, where the rubber meets the road. And I quoted that with a woman the other day, and she said, that's the problem. I don't have any tires. I about fell out of my chair because I thought, that is so true. And then the last is toss. So you can look at email, you can look at digital documents, you can look at paper. Your first sort is file, act, or toss.
Exactly. So file it for future reference. Okay, that's a whole nother conversation. We have what we call a finding system, because Hemphill's principle is if you don't know you have it or you can't find it, it is of no value to you. So we teach systems on how to find information that you do decide to keep. So that is a whole nother conversation. But from the very basic level, you set that information aside in a place where you can get back to it when you need it. Okay. Now that's easier said than done, but we can teach you how to do that. But now
he's putting it together. Okay. So an initial in organizing anything, one of the things we do is categorize. So you're saying there is a category of file, and even if all of it is in a big box, or at least that you've got a way
separate
what you need to do. Yes,
that's right. It's separated out from the action. So what does act mean? Act means, like Barbara said, the ball is in my court. It's a to do. It's a to call. It's a to meet. It's a to reply. It's anything.
Delegate. It may be a to delegate. I mean, a lot of people on this call have people to whom they could delegate, but they don't, because they don't have systems in place in order to do that delegation.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So let's say we're going to take away the file pile. That is it's in a box, or it's in a to file category. It's separate. And then the toss pile, you can go ahead and take that out, get it out of your way, take out the trash. And then you're left with your actions. You're left with your to-dos. So Barbara, this is where it becomes, it can become very overwhelming. It's like, okay, now I've got this pile of to-dos, things I need to do, and I'm overwhelmed. What do I do now?
The question really is, what will you do? You know, people often say, what should I do? The question is, what will you do? So how do you get to that? This is a deeper question. And part of the reason that everyone struggles with it is that in our culture right now, we don't spend enough time thinking. We spend too much time just doing. We're like gerbils in a cage, just going faster, and we don't stop and think. So one of the things that gets us overwhelmed is not really having a vision about what is really important. Okay, this is something. So one of our principles is you always have to give up good to get best. And we have the myth in our minds that if we just got organized, you could do everything that were on those yellow pads, or that OneNote, or that Slack, or wherever it is that you keep it. And that is a lie. So that means you need to start with your vision. Well, I cannot tell you how many times people have said to me, I don't really know what my vision is. Well, the reason you don't know what your vision is number one, you haven't taken time to think about it, and you're too overwhelmed with clutter. So one of the questions, what will you do? Some people do better by saying, okay, let's do what I know I can do. I know I can get rid of, the junk mail, and I know I can do this. So whatever you can do quickly, do that. For some people, that just bolsters them and really helps them. Other people want to do a deeper dive into where am I going? Why am I doing it? And it doesn't have a right or a wrong. I mean, that's the reason we're in business, is because often it's like we say now in AI, that AI is only going to be successful if you learn how to ask great questions. So the role that we play, when I say we, I mean our certified productive environment specialists, is to ask the right questions. And so many times, so Sunday I was at a potluck church, a meal at my church, and a woman came up to me, and she had come to one of my classes, and she said, "Oh, that was such a great class, but it didn't stick." Which is something, I mean, how many times have we heard something? And I said, well, it's a journey. It doesn't, things always coming in.
Yeah.
But then I said, okay, where are you stuck? And in her case, she was stuck with information from her husband who had passed. And the information was, he was an artist. And so it was important information and could go to museums. And so the question I asked her was, do you have children? She said, yes, I have a son. And so the first question was, have you asked him? And she said, no, I never thought about it. But yet that was the most important question, because when she's gone, she's in her early 80s now, the person who's going to be most impacted by that is her son.
Right.
So getting unstuck means exploring how, and we often have very quick chats with what we call a discovery session, just quickly to say, okay, let's get you figure out where you will go with that.
That's right. That's right. And from a logistical standpoint, when you're looking at that pile of paper that are all actions that you've already sorted out the things to keep for future reference, you don't need to do anything. You've tossed what you don't need. You've already identified that. And you've got this pile of action papers or whatever, or emails. We teach that you need to systemize the capture of that information. Okay. So you've systemized how the mail comes in. You've systemized your email processing. And these are all things that we teach in our SOAR program. And all of that information is there now in front of you. And you've got this whole list of things that need to be done next. So we systemize the capture of information. This spells out SOAR, by the way: systemize, organize with action and reference. So you systemize the capture of information, and then you organize the information that you capture. That's where we did the first sort. We organized whether something was a reference file, something to file for future reference, an action, or we've already tossed things, right? If it's an action, that's really what we're talking about today. If it's an action, you want to stay on top of projects and tasks, AKA to-do items, right? Let me jump to the last one, reference file. This is something you're going to keep for future reference, whether it's an email or a piece of paper or whatever. So let's go back to action, because this is really what today's topic is about. You now have this long to-do list, or you have this stack of paper, or you have this stack of emails, or all of the above, and you're like, so we want you to take one item at a time. You can, depending on what tool you're using, you may be able to prioritize, right? You may be able to say, okay, this is super important. This needs to happen next. I'll get a fine or a penalty if I don't do this. So those things need to be kind of at the top of the list, right? And then there may be other things that don't need to be done until September. So all tasks, all to-dos are not equal, right? But the first thing to do is get them all in one place. Barbara, you always say progress starts with the truth. So get all of the stuff out of your head into one place. Now, this could be a physical notebook. Okay. Not ideal, because you're going to keep rewriting that all the time, but it's a great place to start. If you don't have any other tool, start with a physical notebook and just get everything out of your head. A lot of people call that a brain dump. I think David Allen calls it a mind sweep. We came up with a new term. I don't even know if you've heard the term, Barbara. Came up with a new term about 2 weeks ago. Ours is a capture quest. A capture quest.
No, I haven't heard that, but I like it.
And because it's an adventure. It's an adventure. It's like, let me go capture all of these ideas. Thank you, Eds, for putting that on a banner for us. It's a capture quest. Where go grab the sticky notes you put notes down on, the index cards, the email, the messenger. All of these places are capturing that's where all our to-dos are. Bring them together. Go on a quest and bring them together and put them into one place. And then the next, so the other thing that we teach is make sure if it is a do or a to-do item, a task, that wherever you're capturing it, that you eventually, you don't have to do it at first, but when you go back to that list and you look at it, that you add an action word in front of it, a verb, that you don't just write down newsletter. You can write down newsletter at first just to get it out of your head, but eventually it needs to be write newsletter, review newsletter, edit newsletter, whatever the next action is. Make sure you add that verb to it, right? And then the missing link, because some of you on here are professional to-do list makers, okay, right? I used to be one. But we always forget the second question is critically important. So we've answered the question, what's the next action? The next question, the next decision, go ahead.
I got one thing I want to say, because I guarantee you, based on my own experience, what my life and my client's life is, 2 potential things will happen in doing that capture quest.
Okay.
One is you'll quit before you're done. Because as you start to capture it, you begin to get overwhelmed, or you get interrupted, or you don't allow enough time. And that goes back to what I said earlier about part of ultimate success in this journey of creating a system for you to manage action, which you're going to need to do for the rest of your life, is really allowing some time to do all that. Maybe you won't do it all in one time, but if you get part of it done, then making an appointment with yourself to finish doing it. So that's one. The second thing is, so many people, once you get it all done, you realize this really isn't manageable.
It's an eye opener.
Yeah. Progress starts with the truth. So this is like, this isn't manageable. So then it doesn't mean you have to throw it away entirely. You can take what was on your action and make it reference, so that if you want to go back later on and get it, then you can do it. I can give you an example. Years ago, I love ice cream. I grew up on a farm and my father was a dairy farmer. And when they picked up the milk, they always dropped off the ice cream. So the question at the end of a meal always was, what flavor of ice cream do you want? So at one point I was going to, and I traveled all the time, I was going to write an ice cream lover's guide to airports. And I met with pilots and flight attendants who were going to give me maps and all this. It was going to be a pocket-sized thing and all that. And I was working on it. And I had too many projects. I looked at my action, and that one of my projects was to do that. I said, okay, I can't really do that now. I put it in reference. And maybe a couple of years later, I started to pull it out, and I thought, I really can't in good conscience do this, because I certainly eat too much ice cream, and most people don't need to. I do not want my business to be encouraging somebody to do something that I don't think is in their best interest. And I tossed it. So it went from action to reference to toss.
That's right. That's right. And the question that I'm going to share with you, which is the second question, the second decision, will help you get to that point. So you decided that this was something that you wanted to do, but you didn't need to do it right now. So you delayed it. You put it somewhere where you could find it again. But you asked yourself the question, when? That's the next question, guys. When? Okay, so what's the next action and when will I do it? So in Barbara's example, that was a project. So that went on her list. And when I'm talking about gathering up and capturing the information, you may have to just do that a big one time. Going forward, you need to do it every day or regularly. It's like, oh, I got this text message that somebody's asking me for something. I got this email, they want me to do something. So if you're a business owner, you have tasks and requests and things coming at you, right? And so the next question is when? And in Barbara's example, that was not an immediate priority. So in order to be able to find it again, to decide whether she wanted to do it or not, she had a place to put it, and she put it in a reference system. Okay. But your other daily tasks and things that are coming in, what's the next action and when? So I have found it's not enough just to prioritize and say, this is hot, this is red, this is top priority. This is medium priority and this is low priority. If it's low priority, then maybe it doesn't even need to be on the list, because as business owners, we're juggling so much. Who has time to even look at your low priority stuff? You're going to always have something hot. And if everything's hot, nothing's hot.
And that's where we can apply what we call the art of wastebasketry. When
Right.
you're looking at this list, is saying, what is the what? And I think for me, a lot of it is, how do I feel in my spirit when I say I need to do that? And if I say I need to do this, it's like, what's happening? And if there's lots of emotion, that's something to work with. And one of the questions to ask is, what's the worst possible thing that happened if I didn't do it?
That's right.
If I just didn't do it, what would happen?
Yeah.
Or is there a way I could do it that was simpler than what I was going to do? I was going to do, for me, a phone call is easier than an email. Andrea, you're exactly the opposite. For you, an email would be, so it's who you are. That's why we call it the art of organizing productivity. It does. And that's the reason after 46 years, I'm still doing this, because God did not create any two people the same, or any two organizations the same. And so it's constantly figuring out, what will you do? And the longer you do it, the better you get at it.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So Kathy with New Path Productivity, she's one of our certified productive environment specialists. She said, I love Capture Quest. It sounds fun and exciting. And when we talked about it last week, it was like the word adventure. It's an adventure. It's like, oh, these are all the things I get to do. Let's reframe I have to do to I get to do. They're on our list because they're part of something, right? They're part of your family, or they're part of your business. So I get to do these things. Let's reframe the have tos to the get tos, right? So once you've got your list now, and you have said the prioritization actually happens when you ask the question when, because now you're going to say, okay, I need to do this, or I get to do this, I want to do this, I have to do whatever you're saying, and then you say, and when. If it's something that doesn't need to be done until the next month, then you have a place to put it so that it shows up for you the next month. You don't want to forget about it. If there's something that needs to be done that you're going to get a fine for it if you don't, or there's going to be a penalty or a late fee, that would be.
If it's a proposal to a client, I mean, if you're making a proposal to a client, or you're writing a book outline, you need to get it to the publisher, or anything related to that.
If it's going to cost you money, or you have a potential to make money with it, then that's up high on the list, right? So your when is going to be as soon as possible for some of those things, right? And so you need to have a system to be able to say, okay, when am I going to do that? And so again, if you're just using a notebook, at least you've got something. That's a start. Barbara, I know I used to say, if it's not on my calendar, it's not going to get done. And so I went through a phase, and some of our clients remember seeing my calendar. I showed my calendar on a screen, and they were like, whoa, because I put all my tasks in my calendar. Now there's these great tools out there. There's Google Calendar, and it integrates with Google Tasks, and Apple has their own, and Outlook has their own. And so I was using those tools. But then what happened? My calendar was overwhelming, and I didn't want to look at it anymore. But then this thing still didn't get done. So it wasn't enough to add it to your calendar, because that's a great idea, but life happens and things shift throughout your day. And if all your tasks are in your calendar, that can become extremely overwhelming. So they do need to work together. You need to be able to look at your calendar, and then just look at the task, look at your calendar, and decide when you'll be able to do it. Now, we have a tool that we created called the SOAR board, and it helps you systemize the capture of information, organize the information into action and reference. And it is a template that just helps you quickly make those decisions, and it gives you a place to put them, so that then when you're ready to take action, you get your coffee, you get everything's quiet, you got your dogs walked, that's my life, and you sit down to actually take action. You click one button, one bullet, and it brings up that one task or that one project that you're working on, that next action, because you've got a designated time to do it. So that is game changing. That is a game changer. If you are tired of just making lists of things to do, and then you make lists of your lists, we talk about this almost on every call because it's such a prevalent thing, then there is a better way. There is another way. So you are looking at the next action, and then you're saying when, and then you're structuring your days, your weeks, your months to decide when you're going to take action on something. Now, something I shared, Barbara, with you earlier, we were laughing about when we were getting on the call, is I shared, or on the podcast, I shared this topic with two of our colleagues that are business owners, Demetrius and Josh. They are both minimalists, extreme minimalists. And Josh is blind. So you guys go and check out. In fact, Eds, if you'll link into the show notes, the link to our interview with them. He has to be extremely minimal, and like he has to have everything organized to a point where he knows exactly what to do and what to do next, right? So when I told them the topic, and I said, yeah, we're going to talk about what's the next action and when, they both were like, what do you mean when? And I was like, what do you mean? What do I mean when? Like, when am I going to do it? And they're like, you just do it. Like, why do you need to ask when? You just do it. So I had to explain to them that no, not necessarily. You can't do it all at one time. They have much fewer tasks, business tasks, than we do, but they are, they're deleters, they're minimalists,
and they're structured,
and they're very structured.
The other thing. So I'm
focused.
Yeah,
very focused.
Yeah. And I'm not a structured person. In fact, when I graduated from college, I taught music, and I taught for 1 year. And at the end of 1 year, I said, there has to be another way to make a living. I cannot do this. And later on, I was analyzing why. And there were two things. One was I didn't like teaching what I loved to somebody who didn't want it. They were elementary school kids, and they really didn't particularly care about learning music. So that hurt my heart. But the other one, which makes perfect sense now that I'm an entrepreneur, is I don't like structure. So the idea that I knew where I was going to be every hour of the day for 9 months. And so that's who I am. And part of, again, the art of organizing is both of them are very structured, very systematized. And in fact, in my family right now, my husband loves it when I make a list at the beginning of the day and say, this is where I'm going to go today. This is what I'm going to do. And then the joke at the end of the day is, well, what didn't you do today? Because every day, almost without exception, there was something that I was going to do that I didn't. And it wasn't because of procrastination, but it was because something else became a higher priority.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Now, with that in mind, I will share with the two of them, we talk about systemize the capture of information. They both use their Apple Notes. They both have iPhones, and they both plug in they use their notes. So they have that's your system for capturing your information. And then how do you get it done? Well, interestingly, like they are also very much like immediate. Like I said, neither one of them procrastinate. They don't they don't put things off. But what I want to share here is there are things that will come up, guys, that you don't necessarily need to do right now. You might not need to do them until, like I said, till September or July or something. And you need to have a place to put them so that they do circle back up. They resurface to you at the time it's time to do them. So
let me put in here for those of you who've been on the call a lot and you've heard us talk about SwiftFile. So for people who are papers. So beside my desk is my day for today with the pieces of paper in it that I'm going to deal for today. But when I'm taking the mail, it's like I may get something out. Yesterday, I got a flyer about a conference that is next April. I literally took the whole package. I didn't do anything with it except I stuck it in January because it's going to be January that I will make a decision about whether I'm going to go to that conference in April. So it's having a decision when you're going to do it.
Yes, that's perfect. And what's great about that, without a system, you could have said, I'm just going to put this here for now because I don't want to forget about it. So it's either going to sit on the corner of your desk or somewhere taking up prime real estate in your space, and it's going to be in here.
It won't come up at the right time. I cannot tell you the hundreds of times, literally, that I've sat with people sorting through their papers, and they will pull out something and say, oh, I meant to do that. And then they looked at that pile for days, weeks, months, and missed the opportunity because they didn't have a system to put it where they would find it when they needed it.
That's right. So, and we're all about it. When it really comes down to it, we're about a finding system, being able to find what you need when you need it. And that's your actions for your tasks. And that's also information. And Missy just shared, reframing our mindset is a super suggestion. Yeah, absolutely. It's like, we don't have to do something. We get to do something. That's one mindset reframe, right? And then she says, bingo, that's exactly why I left teaching high school, too structured. Right. I mean, and entrepreneurs, we're creative people, and I'm kind of a mix because I love creativity. I love time to, we were talking about time to play, and playing to me sometimes is digging into a new technology tool. That excites me. It's like, how can we use this? So that's fun. But having time to express yourself, having time to be creative, and then also have some structure. We call it core structure with flexibility. Core structure with flexibility. So that's what we teach. We teach you a structure. We teach you a system. Barbara just showed you a perfect example. We have a tool called SwiftFile, and that is a tool that handles your paper. So if you've got a physical piece of paper that goes along with a task, rather than just losing it somewhere on your desk or on your credenza or on the floor behind you or wherever, you say, okay, what's the next action? Okay, this is something I need to do. The next question is when. Don't forget that. Look at your calendar, which hangs in front of your SwiftFile, and then you put it in the date, not necessarily the date it's due, but the date you need to work on it or be reminded of it. So there's a physical place for that. And then also, let me see if I can share my screen. Present, that's the right button. Share screen. Let me just share a quick picture of the digital version of that. Okay. This is, you hear us talk about the SOAR board. This is a training version of the SOAR board. So we start over here on the left with an inbox. That's our capture quest. We get everything out of our brains, whether it's a do or anything, whatever it is, it goes here. And then we decide when. Okay, if it's an action, we decide when. If it's just something to save this for future reference, then it gets sent over to the reference. I'm not going to go into that right now, but there's a little drop down here, and there's different places in the reference that it can go. But if it's something to do, then the next question is when. And so you see, I've got dates here. And there's different ways to do this, but here we are on Tuesday, May the 6th, and I need to do this task. I'm going to do it on Tuesday, May the 6th, and I'm going to go through my whole list of things that I've captured, and I'm going to decide when I'm going to do them. Okay, so let me click stop sharing, and I will come back to you guys. That is just a quick demo. I don't want to go into too much about that on this call, but there's a system. We have a system to manage your actions and your reference information in one place. It doesn't mean you upload documents there. You can, but it's really more it's a finding system. It's a finding system, and it helps you keep moving forward with your actions. So your next step, if you'd like to learn more about it, your next step is a free training. It's a 12-minute training. So don't tell me you don't have 12 minutes. Go to lesscluttermorelife.com. Some of you on here have already seen it. If you're new here, you're new to our channel, first of all, please like this video, share this video, and subscribe to our channel. But you can go to lesscluttermorelife.com. There's a 12-minute free training, and that introduces you to the SOAR board, and then that will lead you to the next step where you can find out how to get your own, how to use it. We have an amazing team of people and clients that love to help people learn to use it, and it's customizable. So there is no one size fits all. It can be customized to your brain and your situation. So, and whether you use the SOAR board or not, start thinking in terms of what's the next action and when, and find a tool, whether it be a notebook to start with or something on your computer, and you start capturing the tasks and things you need to do. Get them out of here so this isn't weighing you down. So Barbara, last thoughts for the group?
So one question that I encourage everyone to ask every day is, what's the most important thing for me to accomplish today? And I hope when you get off this call that you have a system that will enable you to capture that and to get it done. And if you don't get it done today, you don't automatically move it to tomorrow. You redecide whether or not you need to do it at all, whether that's the right time, so that you can answer the question, when, if I didn't do it today, when am I going to do it?
That's right. That's right. And then don't beat yourself up if that day comes and you still didn't do it. You redecide. And at some point, if you keep moving that, because then people say, well, do I have to move it every day? What if I move it every day? Good, because it's on your radar and you will come to the conclusion at some point that either I need to do this or it really doesn't deserve to be on my list, and you can delete it. So you just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. Use the practice the art of waste basketry and get rid of things that are taking up time and space and your energy. So thank you guys for joining us. Anything we mentioned in here, we will put in the show notes. So link to SwiftFile, link to Josh and Demetrius's interview, anything else we'll have in the description on YouTube. So if you're watching us from anywhere else, make sure you make your way over to our YouTube channel and you'll get all the notes there. So thank you all for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.